Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and a very warm welcome to the Red and Blue Review. My name, and I am your host, my name is Nick Philpott. Welcome to each and every one of you, wherever you are watching in the world. I'm shortly going to be joined by all of the horrible crew. I've got a whole room full of Ians for you and a Jill. So we'll kick off with Mr. Noble. Welcome back again, mate. How are you?
Hello, Nick. Yeah, I'm not so bad. Could be better after last night, but I'm all right.
Yeah. We'll come to that, no doubt. Mr. Lyons, how are you?
What is the group noun for Ian's? Is it depressed? A depression
of Ian's.
A depression of Ian's. And of course, we've got Mr. Happy himself, Lord Holyacres. How are you?
Different day.
Doom and gloom. We did say pre-show that there won't be very many people watching this evening, but I can already see there's loads of you out there. So good evening to every one of you. Let's have a kick off there. Laurie, Daniel, George, Paul, Nige. Thank you for all your work, Nige. James Convoy, Ben Agbamoni. Haven't seen you for ages, Ben. Where you been? John Knox. Good evening, mate. George Wells, Sean Steer. Loads of you out there. Listen. We could do this one of two ways. It's entirely up to you. We can pick the bones out of yesterday and be all doom and gloom, or we can try and put a little bit. I know John wants to. He does. Oh, I can see Dawn out there and Jones out there as well. Colin, I can see you, mate. Good evening. Or we can try and put a bit of positive spin. We're mid-table. We're happy. We're in a safe place. We ain't going down. John Lyons, love to your family, mate. I can see you. We're not going to go down, and we're not going to go down. I don't care. None of you will convince me this evening that we are still in a relegation dogfight, because there is 4 teams below us that are dog poo. Okay, but we'll get into all that in a minute. So welcome to the Red and Blue Review. Before we get underway, please, wherever you are watching in the world, please hit your share button right now and start your own watch party. Allow as many people on your wall to watch us to come and join us. You can find us on Twitter, YouTube, anytime. You can download this or any of our previous podcasts, or simply go to your digital speaker and say, Alexa, please play the latest Red and Blue Review podcast.
Easy for you to say.
And it'll jump on. Yeah, sorry, I've got the wife's teeth in. Have you seen the size of them, though? Anyway, so... Massachusetts. Before we get underway, I want to kick the show off before we start talking about games and matches and everything else. One of our team members that are with us tonight, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mr. Lyons, you, sir, are to be massively congratulated on how the Jim Cannon, the first part of the Jim Cannon interview, has been received. Tell us, has it exceeded your expectations?
Well, yeah, I suppose it has. You don't go into it with any expectations, and it was just a lot of hard work to get him. And as people will see from the interviews and the next parts, he was very, very engaging, very easy to talk to. And he's at the end of it, what you won't see is he says it's the longest interview he's ever done. So yeah, it was good. It was good. I'm hoping we can get some more as well along the way.
And if you are watching this out in Red and Blue Review land, please don't forget that the second instalment of this fine interview drops on Thursday night at 8:00. There is a reminder on the Red and Blue News Facebook page, I believe, Ian, is that right? Yeah.
There's a post on there with a reminder. So yeah, go on there, click on the reminder, and then you'll get a notification when it comes out.
And if you missed the first instalment, pop onto our YouTube channel, because you will find it on our YouTube channel. Am I right, Lucy and Ian?
Yeah, right. As well as lower down on the page as well. So yeah, there's plenty of stuff there for people to look at if they so wish.
And he is Palace through and through, and he still is even to this day. And you could just tell that he just loves talking about the club. Boys, where should we kick off? Ian Noble, give me a 2-minute overview of your thoughts on what you saw last night, please.
Well, thanks, Nick, very much for that. I should pick on somebody to start. But before I get into that, though, great interview. I really enjoyed the Jimmy Cannon part one. Amazing that he came down to England when he was still a kiddie, and he's still got this really strong Scottish accent. I thought, but he was
Yeah, I
he's
know, it would.
good value, wasn't he? Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, and the fact at 17 he came down on his Todd, which obviously
I know.
in those days you did. So
Yeah.
proud to him.
There we go. Anyway, last night, I think we a lot of us went into last night with a degree of trepidation anyway because Wilf wasn't playing. There are all these factors stacked against us last night. We hadn't won at Leeds in 6 games. We haven't won on a Monday night for 9 games. We haven't won without Wilf away since 2017. All these things. And so I tweeted and said, it's never in doubt we're going to win this, aren't we? But of course, tongue in cheek. So I think we, as supporters, we went into the game with some trepidation, and I think that must filter through to the players to a large extent. No matter how they prepare well for the game, that travel up to Leeds, it's freezing cold, it's a horrible night. The pitch was awful. It really was awful. We talked pre-show a little bit about this. The Leeds have put this new pitch down. They played their first game against Everton on it and lost. They would have learnt a little bit from that. We haven't played on it before, but it was a shocking pitch. I know you could say it's the same for both teams, but I think our players especially found it very difficult to play on. Okay, so they undid us really early on, and that early goal shook us, and we never recovered, obviously. Unlike Newcastle at the previous game, and we haven't had a show since the Newcastle game, it was a very similar start, wasn't it? 1-0 down within 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And yet the difference at Newcastle was that we did manage to rally, put a couple of good moves together, and had a little bit of class up top, which meant we got the goals and managed to keep our noses in front. In terms of last night, though, I just felt that we were lucky to be 1-0 down at half time. We were very fortunate. Leeds weren't further in front. They created chances. They carved us open. I think they're a better side than Newcastle. I think they're a good team. I know people say, they were a championship team last year. They've only added 1 or 2 since, but those players were too good for the championship. There are some good footballers in that Leeds team, and they've proved that by being mid-table. The winners last night, and Sky talked about this before the game, that the winners go in the top half of the table. You've got to be good to be in the top half of the Premier League. You're not just at 17th, just surviving there. So we were within touching distance of doing that last night before the game. Clearly we didn't play very well. I think some of the selection confused us a little bit. Some people were crying out for PVA to play wide, but it didn't work. I thought Townsend was a bit of an improvement. I thought 1 or 2 positive signs. Eze puffed a bit, but he was poor defensively. I thought Jordan Ayew had quite a good game. But that aside, and then, you come out in the second half, if you have a good first 10 minutes, you can get a foot back in it. And then suddenly we're 2-0 down within 5 minutes of the second half starting. And then it's really uphill. And again, they carved us open a few more times. We were lucky to lose 2-0. And as I tweeted afterwards, I think we were lucky to be second. We were fortunate to come second last night. So I think it's one of those games. I think you just need to draw a line under it and move on.
Okay.
And hopefully we can do that on Saturday when we play Burnley at home.
Which we will come on to later in the show. Before I move on, Joe, I'm coming to you next, okay? Because I want to talk to you about the odd lineup and the absentees yesterday. But Tom Clark-Samuel just put something in the chat that is remiss of me. He does a lot of hard work for us on our Instagram page, on the Red and Blue Review Instagram page. Tom, thank you for that. And he's asking you all you probably younger than us, okay, please like our Red and Blue Review Instagram page, weekly quizzes and match previews on there. And he does an awful lot of hard work on there. So thank you for all your work on there, Tom. You're a top man. Joe, I'm just going to quickly run through the lineup because it is relevant to what we're about to talk about. Guaita in goal, obviously. Klein, Cahill, Dan, Mitchell, who I thought was patchy last night, to say the least. Milivojevic, Riedewald, Ayew, Eze, Van Aanholt in a weird position, and Matata making his debut for the club. Now, also out of that lot there, Joe, we were missing Tompkins, Schlupp, Ward, McCarthy, MacArthur, and of course Wilf Zaha. Can you read too much into that lineup, or the chain? So many bodies missing from the lineup.
You can tell it's Roy. I don't know. I mean, I'm glad Macca got a rest because, as far as I'm concerned, he carries the team far too much. Milivojevic gets away with far too much when MacArthur's playing next to him. I don't know. I mean, I would, as sketchy as he's been for the last one and a bit games, I'd still rather have Mitchell there than PVA. Was absolutely joyous that Roy made a half-time substitution. He'll probably make out that he was injured, but he wasn't injured. He was just crap because and got rid of him. Put Townsend on. Townsend's always a willing runner. So yeah, it is what it is. But again, as Ian's covered with, with stats, I love a stat. The stats don't lie. But everything was against us. We were never going to win that. Leeds are a much better side than us. Don't care what people say about, they're a championship side, and they got a far better coach than us. They are coached better than us. They're fitter than us. The fitness side is immeasurable. I mean, it was just they were twice as fit as us, twice as fast as us, twice as keen as us, twice as good in the tackle, twice as good at shutting down, twice as good. And that's why they beat us 2-0. We did not deserve to score a goal last night. And to be honest with you, if Bamford wasn't still shit, we would have probably lost that 4 or 5-6 last night. You can say about, and again, I'm quoting Bamford here, right? But a fantastic stat on the radio today, he is second to Harry Kane in goals and assists. And then now, honestly, I nearly choked. I'm working in a Leeds fan's house. So thanks a lot if any of you lot, you players, will ever watch this. Because I know, apparently, some players do get on moody names on social media and watch what other people say about it, right? You embarrassed me today. Working in a Leeds fan at the Leeds fan's house. I've been working there on and off for 3 months. And
Joe, you were telling me earlier that the Leeds fans don't even like Bamford. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, he just said the thing about Bamford is he doesn't score. He scores goals, but he doesn't score important goals. All the goals last year for them to come up, they were never important goals. He scored like a 3rd or 4th goal when they were 2 or 3-0 up already. But I mean, the fact is, the guy's now got 100 goals.
Oh yeah, you want your 100th goal. Who do you want to play against? Oh yeah, let's play against my old team, Crystal Palace.
Well, the thing is, again, at our place, he had an absolute fantastic goal chalked off.
Yeah.
And then he scored an even better goal. We didn't see that, so it's unfortunate.
Boys, can I also ask you to keep your eye on in the chat as well, because there's a couple of things. Steve White, Ian Lyons, I'm coming to you next. Steve White just said, I agree with you, Jill. Luca is regularly mopped up by Jimmy MacArthur, and I think you're right. Laurie Scott, talking about what Jill was just saying about our game, no midfield presence, no offensive game, no service to the strikers equals 0 points. That about sums it up, Lyonsy, didn't it not?
Yeah, I mean, the boys have covered a lot of what I wanted to say anyway. In fact, I actually wrote, lucky it wasn't 6-0. I was quite enthused by it, unusually for me, for Roy. I thought it was quite an attacking and liberating, on paper, first 11. Having PVA on the left was, I'm assuming, the idea was to provide crosses for Mateta. But as I've been saying on the show for months and months and months, and as Hinchcliffe said, it doesn't matter how many strikers you got up front. If you're not going to give them service, they ain't going to score goals. And regardless of how he set up, we were woeful everywhere. Not one player can hold their hand up and say they had a good game last night. Even Cahill. But Mitchell is used to having the one player I agree with Jimmy Mack. Jimmy Mack is maybe John was probably the best player last night, but he was a lone force, in amongst everyone else that was flouting. But I agree with Jimmy Mack. We missed Jimmy Mack, and also we missed Schlupp. Schlupp, it will gives a protection to Tyrek Mitchell, and Mitchell's been found wanting now twice in the last 3 games. But it's the ease at which we're conceding goals at the minute, and chances as well. Leeds could have scored 6 last night. Newcastle could quite easily have got 4 or 5. They missed some absolute sitters as well. And that win papered over the cracks. There it is. It's out of there again.
Yep.
You know, but then at 1-0 down, Roy does what I normally berate for, and a lot of people berate for, by actually making a change. And again, I agree with Joe. I think it was such a brave move. He was essentially telling PVA, your career's over. Because rather than put you left back, I'm putting the kid at left back that we think's got a future. And because you didn't do your job, you're off. But then he puts Townsend on, and Townsend turns the ball over. Ayew turned the ball over so many times. Ayew was really frustrating last night. So far this season, he's done really well coming on as a cameo and holding it up. How many times did he throw himself to the ground and not get a thing because he threw himself to the ground rather than stay up and hold the ball up? Mateta, the few chances he actually got the ball to feet, he looked quite lively. He the first touch, which set their first goal up apart, which was fired at him at knee high. He dealt with everything. He got a couple of good flick-ons, everything else. But I have to say, as much as I wanted it to work for Roy last night, because of the changes he made, and on paper we should have dealt with them a lot better than we did. They're so used to being defensively drilled, and as a result, we were just found wanting. We go a goal down, and very rarely, Newcastle apart, very rarely do we come back at a minute.
Okay, on the subject of Mateta, Matty Cannon says Paul Mateta was made to look poor due to being cut out of the game. The other one point, and somebody else mentioned, Andy Stacey said, "How good was JP last night? How good was he?" Well, Andy, I don't think he did. I don't think he was very good because he didn't have a game to play.
I can't see that at all. I thought, he, like everyone else, he had a poor game. It wasn't his fault necessarily, and I agree with Matty to some extent that he was isolated up top. But if he was playing that game as a trial game and you were having a look at him, you wouldn't sign him. He didn't do enough for me. I thought it was a strange one to start him in, to be honest with you.
On that subject, then, because it was something that we were talking. I know you weren't with us last week, but we were talking about. We were talking about our game. Look at Benteke. Look at Ayew. Look at Wickham. Look at Mateta last night. It is how we play. Somehow we're ruining our strikers.
Well, I think if you put Bamford in our team up top, he becomes a really bad player again. I think the reason Bamford is scoring these goals and getting the odd assist is the amount of quality balls that are coming into him. And he isn't that good. The chances he missed last night as well. He missed a load. He's a real enigma, is Bamford for me. If you put him in our team, I don't think he scores many goals at all. I think he's still shit as he was when he played for us.
Pretty much fun.
I think again another mistake. Eze being banged out wide.
Yeah.
Like seriously, this is what frustrates me about Roy. I don't know whether he's just forgot that he's a 10. He just goes, he's pretty quick. We'd stick him out on the right. Jordan Ayew last night for me, I could have chinned him. If he was a teammate of mine, I would have grabbed him.
He would have fallen over then, mate.
I'm telling you now, I would have bashed him out.
I disagree with you both. I didn't think he had that bad a game, Jordan Ayew last night.
Don't pass the ball here. Don't pass the ball.
Yes, he fell over a lot, but that was the pitch, wasn't it? He had the wrong studs in.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about Jordan Ayew. Is all about him. I've said it so many times throughout the last 2 years.
That's a fair point.
He picks the ball up and he has absolutely no vision of or awareness of teammates, like zero. When you give the ball to Jordan Ayew, prepare of one of two things. I can almost guarantee you that A, he will lose the ball, or B, he will go down, and now you hear a shout. That's all he does. And the referee sussed him out last night. The referee sussed out. He just, anytime you go near him, he falls over. And it was to the detriment because the referee then let their players kick him to pieces over on the right hand side. yeah, for me, he doesn't get in our team. You know, for the likes of Scott Banks, who would have run his arse off as part of that, more than £1 million in wages for that game, right?
I want to come back,
£1 million.
I want to talk to you. I want to come back to you on your point about Eze being out wide, because I was watching it here with my oldest son Sam, and we were talking about the same thing. To a point, and I'm not going to defend the manager here. To a point when Zaha is playing and he's giving Zaha more of a free role, you can sort of understand why he plays Eze out on one side. Okay, giving him. You can just a little bit, give him a little bit of kudos for it, giving him an opportunity to run a defender. Last night, Zaha wasn't playing. Okay, this is the bit that really, I nearly swore, really frustrated me. Okay, Zaha wasn't playing. Well, give the free role, as you quite rightly said, as a 10 to Eze. Go on, Jill.
Guess who had the free role last night? PVA. PVA had the free role last night. He was playing. I see him playing over the right hand side.
Oh, he did. Yeah, he did.
Honestly, he just had a free roll. It was absolutely scandalous. The thing about Eze is right. The thing about Eze.
I don't think he was told to do that. He just did it.
Eze, exactly. Eze would have tied him. So he would have got something going with Mateta. But that link going forward through the centre to a striker who's keen to run, to try and, you know, he's got everything to prove, and he didn't get a chance last night. I just thought that was an absolute classic of going, I'll just get out there. And the one thing he isn't, right, is he isn't a Benteke. He is not a whack it up there and free to hold it. You can already see that. He's too wiry. He's obviously decent in the air. He's quick, left foot, right foot. His game is to stand on the shoulder and hopefully not be as offside as Batshuayi. Is to stand on the shoulder of the last defender. I mean, I was amazed last night. What were we playing? Did we go 4-5-1 at the start, or just 4-5 and then just went? You just stay up there and goal line as much as you can. Don't be offside, right? And so that completely gave them, because once they bypassed their midfield on that crappy pitch, that was why. Anyway, we weren't playing wide enough. They were playing to their playing width and to their strengths. Also, the kid was just left, like you say. There was no cover for him.
No, that's it.
Because if PVO was supposed to be left side of midfield, then he just doesn't come back. He never came back when he was a defender. So why would he come back as a midfielder? I just, you know, we were absolutely overrun. Sometimes you just got to put your hands up and go, we were overrun by a better team in almost every single department. And we did. It showed that we missed two or three of our players, but also it showed that we cannot play our players out of position. And while we do that, we will struggle.
Nick, are you going to talk about the consistency of selection compared to other Premier League teams? We talked about that slightly.
Yes, we will do. You've mentioned it, and Gels just mentioned it. Gels, you just used the phrase "crappy pitch." Now, for those that didn't hear it last night, I'll give you. I know we talked about it pre-show. Very quickly, the pitch that they used last night was the second time Leeds have played on it. Okay, this pitch was actually bought from Tottenham Hotspur underneath the new Tottenham ground. Okay, they've got two retracting pitches that they use for NFL matches. Of course, there are no NFL games going on at the moment, so Leeds have actually bought one of their pitches. I think somebody said it was £300,000, and hence why they kept falling over, tripping over. I've never seen them. It reminded me. What was that game back in the 80s where? Was it Dean Gordon scored a goal against Chelsea in an evening cup game, and it just literally rolled over the line?
I think it was Grant Watts that scored that goal. It was a League Cup quarter-final at Selhurst.
But that's what that pitch reminded me of last night. That crappy pitch at Selhurst years ago.
Football on ice.
And it was. I mean, honestly, I know the argument will come back, and somebody will say it in the chat. I know they will. It was the same for both teams, but both teams hadn't played on it before. Only one of the teams had played on it before.
I don't think it was the same for both teams, because you quite rightly say Leeds have played against Everton. They lost that game and they would have got a little bit used to it. But I think it was almost an unfair advantage. It was a dreadful pitch. The worst pitch in the Premier League.
Bamford said in his interview that he at half time he put on rugby studs.
Yeah, he did.
And that's the nonsense of it. Ian, we're going to come to your point about consistency of teams in a second. The other thing that none of you have picked up on, and I was waiting to see if anybody else picked it up, their first goal yesterday. Did anybody see how it started again? Yep.
It was from a clearance, wasn't it, to Mateta?
No.
No,
it wasn't. It was Al throwing it again. It was. Go on, Joe.
Oh, we had a throw in and got robbed of the ball.
Again, exactly the same.
No. The throw in, we cleared it up to Mateta. Mateta's bad first touch. Then they went back and then recycled it.
But the goal itself came from
another people. It came from the kickoff. How many phases of play do you want to go back? Listen, it was poor.
As many as suits our excuses.
Our agenda.
Yeah, sorry, undermining it. Sorry.
Right, okay. Now, Ian Noble made a very good point, ladies and gentlemen, just a minute ago. I've got lots of questions here, and especially one from Teresa that I'm coming on to in a second. But Ian mentioned pre-show that have you noticed the teams that are performing better of late, okay, are the ones that are more consistent? And go on, Ian, you feel like... Pad it out a little bit.
Yeah, I just think that we've made too many changes in recent games. It's all very well to say we've got a game Saturday, Tuesday, and we're not used to that. Therefore, we need to use our squad. But to make 5 or 6 changes for a normal Premier League game, you just don't see West Ham United doing that at the moment. You don't see Leicester doing that. You don't see Wolves doing that. You don't see Southampton doing that. You know, those sides, I know they're not all doing brilliantly, but arguably they're performing better than us, and I just don't think we needed to have had more of a consistency in terms of our team selection. But maybe that's just the injuries that have hit us as well, you know, because we have suffered more injuries than I think there was a table that was published in one of the papers last week that we've had more injuries than any other club in the Premier League. Liverpool was second, I think, in that table. So maybe that's got something to do with it. But I just think if we'd had more consistency in selection, then we wouldn't have been. We might have still lost the game, but we wouldn't look as adept as we have done. You know, we look poor, and we need to get more of a consistency in players understanding each other a little bit more. And that was epitomised last night down the left when we've said already. Tarek Mitchell, he looked exposed because he was exposed because people weren't getting back and didn't know what their job was in front of him. So, you know, that's the point really. If we can select a more consistent team over the next few weeks, I will be a lot happier.
Okay, Jill, you mentioned I saw last night, or I actually saw it at 4:00 this morning, a tweet from you last night. What did your tweet say about your Red and Blue review? If you hadn't got to do something with the Red and Blue review.
Oh yeah, I would have if I wasn't doing this. I would have gone to bed. I wouldn't have watched the rest of the game. It's just they're losing my investment in my interest. Does that sound? I don't know. I can come across. I see what it is. I am bored of this non-entertaining, turgid, slow, passionless crap, uneventful. I could just go on and use and almost apply every single. To be honest with you, I am losing the will to watch Palace at the moment. And we had this discussion before, whereas before the show, and myself and Ian Noble. You see, the thing is, you guys go home and away, you go to all the games, and it is a fundamental part of your life. I will always be a Palace fan, but do you know what? At the moment, if it came to watching Palace on TV and getting a new field to do some metal detecting, probably do the detecting. And I'll tell you for why. Because until Roy goes, nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to change. We're going to struggle. We are going to be, we're listless. We don't have a captain. Which, you know, we always, ever since I've been watching Palace, right, we always had a captain. We always had a Clint Hill. We always had a Jedinak. We always had a just a strong player who would. We do not have that. We do not have that at the moment. We are absolutely. You look at the captain of, you know, when you look at Gerrard would bleed through his club. We don't have anybody. We don't have any. That's what we don't have. We don't have a leader. We haven't had a leader for a couple of years, 2 or 3 years. I'll tell you what, we ain't had one since Jedinak left. You know,
Jill, keep your eye on the chat, guys, because this is aimed at you, Jill. Paul Grant saying, "I agree, Jill. Roy is so anti-football. This is like watching paint dry." And using your analogy about you don't want to be there and you don't want to watch it, it's still your club. I use the analogy with my son. It's like having a row with the missus. You know, and watching Crystal Palace, he's like rowing with the wife. You love her, but after the row, you actually don't like her. Just for that. And last
can't live without.
All that, all those analogies, and that's what it is about our team. They're still our team. What made me laugh is I was listening to one of the other podcasts the other day, one of the other Palace podcasts. I'm not going to name them because I got accused of being anti the other podcast. Well, I'm not. Okay. One of them used a phrase that might sound familiar. Consistently inconsistent. Now, where have you heard that before? And they actually said those words. The trouble with Palace at the moment, because they win a couple, they lose a couple, they win a couple, they lose a couple. They're consistently inconsistent. And I'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah, do that.
Because it's obviously something we've been talking about on here for a long time. Yes, Joe.
Just really quick, one more point before the other guys ever go. I would pose this question to you, you guys that have got season tickets. If you guys were there week in, week out, home and away, do you think Roy would still have a job?
Good question.
Right, okay.
Really good question.
Hold that thought, because now I'm going to go on to for tonight's show. Do we think all the negativity that can come can, in some ways, be put down to the fact that we don't feel the euphoria of actually being at the games? Exactly what you just said, Joe. The wins that we have had and would be much more celebrated. Plus, we would have to listen. We wouldn't have to listen to the continuous negative dribble from the vacuous commentators, which I'm sure subconsciously are affecting us all. I'm not trying to let the players off the hook, but I do think it has a huge bearing on the way we are looking at our team. Ian Lyons.
Right. I'm not so sure that was what Joe was asking, but I'll try and marry the two. I do agree with Teresa in that no crowds is having a massive effect, right? But what it's doing is it's actually shining the spotlight on how inept Roy is. Having us as fans there, we're the ones that pretty much carry the team over that line more often than not. We're the ones that G them up when it should be the manager or, you know, not Ray Lewington. But what it's doing is it's actually shining a massive light on Roy as an individual and as a manager that cannot inspire his team. Okay, we've got an aged squad. Okay, you know, and that may play a part in us having the injuries or whatever. But nevertheless, the teams that are going out on paper should be doing better than they are more often than not. And when they're not, it is down to the manager to make those decisions and to fire them up. And I probably agree with Teresa as saying, you know, with us not being there as fans, it is affecting us probably more than it's affecting most teams.
Okay. I'm going to, Ian, but I'm going to let you respond in a second. Before I do, Phil CPFC Bell says it was Chris Coleman that scored the bogey goal against Chelsea. I have not got that recollection. If I'm on, Phil, if you're right, okay, my apologies, but that's not my recollection. Do you remember the goal? Somebody look it up on Nigel Croucher. Go to work for us, mate. Have a look, see if you can find it, and let us know who it was. Do you think there is having a bearing on us as well as, you know, as even as podcast hosts Ian Noble, that negativity from the TV companies?
I think I've watched far more football on TV in this last year than I've ever watched in the whole of my life. Because normally I don't subscribe to Sky nor BT Sport. I don't need to because I'm at the games. And actually, I'm not interested in watching Burnley v Brighton or Liverpool v Tottenham even. I couldn't give a monkeys about the results of those other games.
I absolutely agree.
But I'm watching these games now because there's nothing else to do. I can't go out anywhere. Yeah, I need to check my predictions. I care about that far too much. Let me tell you that. When I was watching Sheffield United with Chelsea the other night, I'd done 2-1, and there was 20 minutes to go. And I was biting my fingernails, going, "Don't score, don't score." But no, I'm joking.
Guys,
I'm half joking.
Well, it's me and you.
But coming back to your point, your point was, is it affecting us? Of course, it's affecting us. And I think when you're at the games, one of the things you do is you get the result out of your system by the time you get home. If we've lost, I've got that result out of my system by the time I've got home. So now I'm sort of snap at my wife or saying if Palace has just lost, and she's all upset because I've said something wrong, and whereas normally I'd take me a couple of hours to get home, and that would never have happened. So maybe it's just lockdown life, it's just getting to us, or is it just me? I don't know.
No,
but
and I think it's valid. I mean, Ian Lyons is saying that the two subjects aren't connected. Well, actually, I think they are.
What about Roy's job?
Roy's job, I don't think it would have made a huge difference whether we were there or not. I'm not as anti-Roy as you are, Joe, or some of the others. I think Roy's done a fantastic job for Crystal Palace Football Club in the last 4 years. I feel a bit sorry for him at the moment. I think he's missed Ray Livingston more than he's prepared to admit. I think he relies on him an awful lot, and we need him back in the dugout for sure. But I think Roy, he was questioned about his future a couple of times I've seen recently, and he looks really uncomfortable. And I don't think that's necessarily fair on the guy. He works with these players. We don't really know what goes on behind the scenes when they go training. We really don't. So I've probably got more faith in him doing an okay job than the rest of us, and we probably haven't got time to go into the ins and outs of that and why I think that. But he isn't going to go anywhere this season. During the season, I hope he goes at the end of the season because he's not getting any younger, but I hope he goes with his head held high, with dignity, because he's done a great job over the last 4 years for Crystal Palace Football Club, and we need to get the right man in. But the summer is the time to do that, and not now.
On that subject, I've got lots of questions here pre-prepared from the questions crew. This just goes to show you, ladies and gentlemen, that this show is live wherever you are watching in the world. Thank you for joining us for no reason apart from your love of the club and the enjoyment of what we do, and we're very grateful. I just want to demonstrate that this is live. On the same subject that Ian's just covered, Jill, this is aimed at you. How would you feel if Parish gives Roy an extension 1-year contract? Jill Holyoke.
Well, we'll put it this way. I wouldn't take a whole day out of my life going to watch Palace, go and watch a live game.
You'd take up metal detecting full time, wouldn't you?
I probably would, to be honest with you. I'm at the point now where I feel I need to just out of principle make choices. It's just I get invested in it. So invested emotionally, like most people, but I can't switch off. I can't bear to watch people who I don't think are trying. If you don't want to try, at least try and fake it. Just run around. Don't just stand there. Don't look like you don't give a shit. Don't look like you're just gonna scowl and get the all game. And if things don't go for you, try and change the game. We don't have players. Listen, I'm gonna go back to a point I made earlier, and I did tweet this last night. More than £1 million in wages last night. That squad would have got way more than £1 million. And I can tell you now, if you'd have turned around and said to, because it's all about the money. I'm over the fact they don't play for the badge anymore, right? I can't see that, Nick. Well, just read it out. What?
Hang on, I just want to show it.
What, the wages?
No. Is that playing?
No,
what are you
if,
trying
if it's
to-
not about my point.
It's not about your point, but I'm just showing you the goal.
Well, why are you interrupting him then? Joe, carry on.
Sorry, mate.
It's not playing, Nick. You've got to press play, mate.
I just I can't. You've done me free.
I'm so sorry. I've lost his train of thought. Jill, I do apologise. People in the chat were telling me as you were talking, it was definitely Cookie Coleman, and they even sent me a link to show me it was Cookie Coleman that scored
Well,
that
can I
goal.
just say, Grant Watts scored in that game then? Because I don't think he scored many goals.
Grant
Did
Watts.
he score in the game? Someone tell me whether he did or whether he didn't.
No idea.
Who cares?
Right. But again, we were talking pre-show about the poor quality of the Palace last night. Ladies and gentlemen in the chat, the Leeds goalkeeper last night completed more passes, 38 to be precise, than any Crystal Palace single player.
Christ.
The
What
Leeds,
a
the Leeds goalkeeper completed more passes than any Palace player. The closest Palace player to that was Eze on 31 completed passes.
Unbelievable.
Damning indictment. Okay. Rob Donovan writes, a Leeds mate sent me this and I had no answer to give him. Watching the last 10 minutes was jaw-dropping. You're 2-0 down and our players are playing gentle triangles through you and you're shambling around, putting in absolutely no effort, closing the man down or trying. Thought that was disgraceful from the Palace players last night, but it's obviously okay by Roy. Anybody want to comment on that? It wasn't a question, it was a statement.
Well, I mean, he's right. That's other teams are clearly doing this high press, right? We're not doing it. If we did high press, we'd be 2 or 3 times the team we are, but we're not. What we do is we don't even move the ball quickly. We moved it the quickest in a number of games against Newcastle, which is what got us back into that game. But yesterday, after going a goal down, you'd think that we would be pushing to get a goal back. We weren't. Luca was awful. And every time he got the ball, he held on to it too long and pirouetted and then went backwards or sideways. And that is our problem. Under the current system and the way they're all being taught, they are not being taught to move it quickly, other than to lump it. And when they lump it, we can't even do that properly. We just lump it into the stands, off the pitch, or straight to their keeper. It is woeful. Our pass completion rate must be one of the worst, if not the worst, in the whole Premier League.
Nigel Croucher, can you answer that? Our pass completion must be one of the worst. Can you find out and see if you can let us know? Okay. So, a question from Nigel. No excuse for the result, but did Leeds borrow boots from the Leeds Rhinos up the road at that Emerald Headingley Stadium? Well, I think. Did you say that was tongue in cheek, Ian Lyons, or was he serious that he actually changed his studs?
No, serious. He admitted to it in the interview afterwards. And he didn't want to go too far into it because obviously you're not allowed to put rugby studs on. But he said they were almost the length of rugby studs because it's been hard for them to stand up on. But again, that really frustrates me. So even more reason to then try and move the ball quickly if you can move it quickly and play Eze, as the boys said earlier. Eze in the middle. So when he's running at people, he's running down the throat of their defence as opposed to being isolated on the left. And it's so frustrating.
I think one of the things that's really frustrating this season has been the fact that we haven't won more penalty kicks with the likes of Zaha and Eze, with the ability they have to run at defenders at speed. Because, they will get fouled, and we've had a few fouls on the edge of the box, but we haven't had a penalty this season, have we? We had one? I can't remember. One. Man United, wasn't it? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, I must admit, it's a bit strange. Really, go on, Joe.
So the passing, I don't understand. It's just a confidence thing. And confidence breeds confidence, and it can only come from the training ground. Training ground confidence takes onto the pitch, you get better and better. That first half we saw against West Ham at West Ham, ground. That first half, probably the best first half of football that I can remember probably ever seeing. It was electrifying. It was quick passing. There were players giving options. This looks like, and again, sporadically, it's looked like it. Like it's the leftover feelings from a bad training session or arguments or fighting between players or whatever that's gone onto the field where they're literally playing and the manager gets sacked. That last night, I'm telling you now, last night, if we had Dyche or a younger manager, I think they'd have been fighting in the dressing room. If we had a leader, if we had Jedinak, they'd have been fighting in the dressing room. I just don't know what it. I don't know whether most of the players are too old for change. Can't get any fitter than what they are. Not willing to change. Not willing to obey. I mean, there's no way in a million years PVA was given a free roll last night. If he was, then that'd be one of the most shocking things I've ever heard in my life. To give him, if you're going to give anyone a free roll, you give Eze a free roll. You don't give Patrick Van Arnold a free roll. So for me, I just feel that the players are doing what they want on the pitch. And what can Roy do? What can nice old Roy do? Go in the changing room, have a bit of a shout. They don't care, are they? Have some old boy shouting at them. They're not worried. Like I said, they're getting their money regardless. Get injured, get paid. And this is what I'm saying. It's this lack of energy. The team, the more effort the team put in, and we've always had this as Palace fans, right? Is you don't have to be the best player, but if you put effort in, right, and you show that you are willing to run your heart out for 95 minutes, then you get a lot more kudos off the Palace fans, whether you're the most skillful or not. And we ain't getting that. We ain't not getting that at all. Only person we get that regularly off is MacArthur, running himself into the ground. He's 34 years old.
Gyro's doing well.
Sorry, say that again, Ian.
Gyro's doing well as well at the minute. But I can't disagree with anything Joe's saying. But I was going to go on to say, maybe we're also missing something else, which is clearly prominent at the minute, and it's the amount of players we have coming out of contract soon. Is their heart really in it? Are they already in a mindset that they're moving on, trying to sort out their careers elsewhere? I mean, George has said on here he'd ship out all the Deadwood, but I think they're doing that themselves at the minute. As a club, we seem to have got ourselves in between a rock and a hard place. We've either got players that are way too old, or players that are way too old and out of contract. And we've got a manager who openly says, he doesn't care whether or not he signs a new contract. He
said that, hasn't he? Yeah.
He said that 2 or 3 times in that same interview against Newcastle.
Yes, he did.
So even the manager, the apathy from the manager is now seemingly dissipating throughout the team. So is it about time Parish jumped in and stepped in and said, "Oi, you're getting a contract, you ain't getting a contract, so you can fuck off, and therefore let's pay the kids." But then Roy, before yesterday's game, said, "Yeah, we haven't got enough to fill the bench, and I don't see any point in filling it up with kids because I'm not going to use them." And you just think, is he going to inspire anyone in our club?
Not to pass. Let me give you the answer. Nigel.
I think there's an issue around COVID, isn't there, about the under-23s? Am I right?
Yeah, it's the bubble scenario.
Yeah.
Ian, I'll come back to that in a second. Nigel Crouch has come back to us. Palace have completed 8,856 passes for the season. We are in 15th place. Liverpool are top on 15,292, and Burnley are bottom on 7,767. So he says,
cracker on Saturday. Then.
That's exactly what he said.
That's passes. That's not pass completion. That's what we were talking about, pass completion. About 7,000 of our passes have been around our own penalty box.
Yeah.
Yeah, but isn't that a pass completion? You pass it sideways from one
Yeah,
centre back to another centre back still counts.
What Nigel's not said there is whether that's passes or pass completion. He's put passes. I wanted to clarify.
And Ian Noble, and answer your question, yes, the reason we're not filling it up is because they're not involved in our enclosed bubble. The first thing,
Exactly.
enclosed bubble. That is why. And why? Yeah, I'll come to you now, Jill. Why risk sending them up to Yorkshire on a coach with the first team and risk them contracting coronavirus? Jill.
Take the best players out of 23s, put them in the squad. Get them in the bubble.
Yeah,
In the bubble. I'm not using excuses. There you go. All right. See, already, I've already just done a little bit more for free than Roy's done for his 93,000 quid yesterday.
There might be a few that are under 20, and you can put them in.
93,000 pounds a week he gets. 93,000 pounds a week.
Who gets 93 grand?
I wonder what he does with it.
4 million quid a year. 4.25 million pound a year. Makes me sick. Absolutely makes me sick. I'm going to bang on about the money thing because value for money, is it the value for money is watching this crap and just staying in the Premier League? Like I said, I wanted to do a Stoke. If this is Stoke, Jesus.
I'm his, everyone knows out there, I'm not his biggest fan, but I have to say, I want him to go now, not just because of the turgid football we're now playing and we've been putting up with for a bit, because I fully accept and fully understand he has settled the boat, right? He's kept us afloat and he's done a bloody good job doing it. But there comes a point where it's too much. And I'm just scared, or I'm not scared, I would feel so bad for him if he just persisted and persisted and persisted and end up getting kicked out, and then his relationship and his reputation was tarnished with us as a result.
It's down the same lines, eh? It's down the same lines.
Another job anyway, is he?
Parish saved us. Jesus, you know what I mean? He's so nice. Let's not do it.
Well, no. Listen, I wouldn't say that about Parish though, because again, at the end of the day, it's about you got two types of fans. You've got those who are happy with what they, thinks everyone else should be happy with what we've got, and you've got those that understand where we've come from, but now think it's about bloody time we actually push forward, and that's the camp I'm in.
Joe, just to let you know, Michael Middleton's answered your question. Take the best players out of the 23s and put them in our bubble. Michael just quite rightly said most of them are now out on loan, Jill.
Which makes a nice change.
Imagine that. Imagine just getting them on the pitch before the game, after the game, at half time, watching the first team at Old Trafford.
I know that we touched.
Imagine how inspired they'd be. Imagine that. You don't win anything with kids there. No one knew anything about Aaron Wan-Bissaka until we got so many injuries that we had to play him. No one knew anything about Tyrick Mitchell until we got so many injuries that we had to play him. We all knew that Riedewald was mustard.
Yeah.
What would come across as mustard and come from the Ajax Academy. So he's going to be better than anything we've got. And it took injuries or for people to have such catastrophic games that Roy had no choice but to play him. Just honestly, sometimes you need to just suck it up and just do it. We got Scott. Why is Scott Banks? Why did we drag him 400 miles down here? The best winger in Scotland, the best young winger in Scotland, and then people go, "Well, the reason he's not playing is because he ain't good enough." Oh, look, he is good enough because he's nicking whatever he's nicking off us, 10, 15 grand a week. It's completely irrelevant. He's going to be good enough. He's wrapped up in the Premier League side. I don't get you give him the chance to run as a winger. Just go. All I want you to do, run down that wing, say that player on, cross the ball. We've got Ben Secchi who likes to edit. We've got Mateo who likes to edit. We've got other players that like to come in late, sometimes on the edge of the box. Just cross that ball. Just keep crossing that ball. Guarantee that kid will cross that ball. It just makes me sick that we can't give him a chance. If we play Patrick Van Arnold, who absolutely doesn't give a shit.
Generic question, boys. I know we touched on JP a little bit, okay, but Nigel was asking the question: do you think we would have been better off playing Benteke last night instead of JP? Do you think we might have damaged his confidence somewhat by playing him in the position that we did last night? Who wants to go first?
Yeah.
I don't think his confidence will be dented by last night. I think he'll be above that. Hopefully he'll put it down to experience and be better next time. I'll tell you what I would have liked to have seen, and we've already slated IU. Well, the others have. I would have liked to have seen Benteke play with Mateta up front, I think, and I'd like to see that selection on Saturday. I think Benteke had a 2, although funny enough, Batshuayi did all right when he came on. He won that ball, didn't he? That he pulled back for the one and only chance that Eze skied.
Listen, that was Belgium. It's the #1 nation in the world. That was their reserve strike force we had on our bench league, and we didn't give them a bloody sniff.
I know. You could argue that you play Benteke and Batman at the weekend and leave Mateta out. But there again, we're doing what I said Roy shouldn't do: make more changes. We're just changing it around every week because we're shit one week and we want a reaction. I don't know. I don't know if you're going to talk about this, Nick. We were sort of running out of time. We've got 3 winnable games coming up. Burnley at home, Brighton away is always a cracker. They'll surely be up for that. If they can't get up for that, then they shouldn't be playing professional football in the Premier League. Then Fulham at home, a high noon on a Sunday. We should be looking forward to these games. 7 points, guys, is there for the taking.
Yeah. Okay. So Nigel actually asked the question: is Burnley a must-win game? And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, on the subject of the Burnley game, which is 3:00 from Selhurst Park next Sunday evening, you have a star host joining you because I'm not going to be available next Sunday evening. Mr. Holyoke is in the chair. He will be taking all your questions, okay, and obviously as much information as you can give him. So Nigel will be sending all your reports to Mr. Holyoke instead of Mr. Philpott. So Jill, you're hosting next Sunday.
What are you doing? What are you doing on the 14th then,
mate? It's Valentine's Day. What do you think I'm doing? It's supply and
Working.
demand. Supply and demand.
Yeah, exactly. He's delivering.
Yeah, they're driving. No, I'm not available on Sunday, but is it a must-win game? Was his question, boys?
It's not a must-win game. It's a must-not-lose game, and it's a must-better performance game. We must see a better performance, and I hope that translates into a win. But it's not a must-win. We're not staying up or going down if we lose it, are we? So
Right, Jill, you looking forward to hosting Sunday?
Yes. Good. Looking forward to.
And I'll tell you what, I'll go further than that. I won't
crap.
come back the following week for the Brighton game if we get a win. Okay.
I am fearful for that game.
The Brighton game?
Oh, I am fearful for that game.
I agree.
They are a good team. I'm sorry, they are a good team.
They're a far better side than what we are at the moment. That looks to be, I don't know why, but that looks to be such a false position that they're in. But it's the Premier League. You beat a good size and lose to the rubbish. That's what they've been doing.
Let's wrap up by saying we had a good result at Wolves. We had a great result at Newcastle. Okay, we had a disappointing performance yesterday. We've got, as Mr. Noble has just quite rightly said, we've got 3 very winnable games coming up. We're not going down. There are some dross in that bottom 3. Somebody just said in the chat, I don't know if you saw it, boys, that Sheffield have given up now. They're actually playing the rest of their games at the Crucible because they need snookers to get out of this one. Okay.
Very good.
Ian Lyons, I'm going to come to you first this week. Give me a positive for the rest of the week, please.
13 games till Roy's gone.
Ian Noble, give me a positive, please, to end the show.
2 or 3 players back that we need on Saturday. So James MacArthur back in the team on Saturday, and I think Ward might start at right back as well.
Jill Holyoke, give us a positive.
A positive. I've got 4 days off soon.
Oh, that is good.
Oh, sorry, Palace positive. No, at the moment I don't see any positives. They're not built me up to. I'm positive every time. Every time referee blows that whistle, and I'm positive, and then I end up depressed.
Ladies and gentlemen, that has been your quick red and blue review from last night's game. Don't forget to join Jill and his team on Sunday evening. It'll be great to have you on there. Thank you for joining us. Keep your chins up. Put your face masks on. Please stay safe. If you're old enough, get the jab. If you're not old enough, yours is coming along. Stay safe. God bless and look after yourselves. Good night, everybody. Good night.
Cheers, guys.
Good night.
Jim Cannon, part 2 coming up.
And breathe.
We're still